There was a time when I felt like my life was just one giant to-do list. Wake up, handle the crisis of the day, solve the latest problem, react, respond, survive. And the funny part is I thought I was being productive. I thought this was how adults are supposed to live, but something kept nagging at me. Why did I keep facing the same problems over and over? Why did my life feel like it was running in circles, even when I was trying so hard? One day, someone asked me a question that stopped me cold. Are you solving problems or designing your life? That one sentence changed everything, because I realized I wasn't thinking strategically at all. I was just reacting. And that's what most people do, but strategic thinking, that's the difference between putting out fires and building a fireproof life, between surviving your day and shaping your future. And the best part, strategic thinking is not something you're born with, it's something you build. Let me show you how. For a long time, I lived in reaction mode. Wake up, check my phone, reply to what's most urgent, chase what's screaming the loudest. If something broke, I fixed it. If something felt off, I worked harder. But no matter how much effort I poured in, it always felt like I was one step behind. There was no margin, no clarity, just noise. I remember one moment vividly. I had just finished a 12-hour workday, completely burned out, and even though I'd checked everything off my list, I still felt stuck, not because I hadn't done enough, but because I realized I had no idea where all of this was actually going. That's when I stumbled across a concept in psychology, the difference between reactive and proactive cognition. Reactive thinking is survival-based. It's the brain's way of managing immediate threats, emails, tasks, fires to put out. But strategic thinking, it activates a completely different part of the brain, one linked to long-term planning, goal orientation, and meaning. Psychologists call it the executive function network, and most people, they spend 90% of their mental energy reacting from their limbic system, emotion, urgency, fear, and they never engage their strategic mind. I was one of them. Here's the problem. When your default mode is reaction, life becomes a loop. You solve the same kind of problems again and again. Relationship issues that repeat. Money stress that never goes away. Career confusion that lingers for years because you're not looking at why the problem exists. You're only asking, how do I make it go away right now? It's like playing whack-a-mole with your own life. But here's what changed everything for me. One day I wrote this question in my journal. Why does this keep happening to me? And underneath it, another one. What if it's not just happening to me, but because of how I think? That moment cracked something open. I realized I didn't need more hustle. I needed more perspective. I wasn't bad at solving problems. I just never stepped far enough back to understand the system creating them. And that was the first glimpse of a truth I'll never forget. Tactical thinking solves problems. Strategic thinking prevents them from happening in the first place. The shift from tactical to strategic thinking didn't happen overnight. It happened in layers. Every time I hit a wall, I stopped asking how to go around it and started asking why the wall keeps showing up. That shift changed everything. Because the truth is, most of our problems are not random, they're patterns, and until we learn to recognize them, we're doomed to repeat them. The first real breakthrough came when I started doing what I now call a personal strategic audit. I sat down with a piece of paper and wrote 3 columns: wins, losses, patterns. But this time I didn't just list outcomes. I looked for the decisions and thinking behind them. I realized something strange. Some of my biggest wins didn't come from effort. They came from perspective. I wasn't always the most skilled, but I saw something others didn't. I connected dots across different experiences. I saw leverage where others saw friction. That's when I learned about metacognition. It's a psychological principle, the ability to observe your own thought process, to not just think, but to think about how you think. And most people never do this. They assume their thoughts are truth. But they're really just habits in disguise. Once I started observing my thoughts like data instead of identity, I could change the system. The next shift came when I asked myself a question I had never considered: where am I going? Not just what job I want, or how much money I hope to make, but what kind of life feels like alignment. What does a day look like that I'm actually excited to repeat? Who am I when I don't feel behind all the time? This exercise is what psychologists call future self-visualization, and it's not just daydreaming. Studies show that people who feel emotionally connected to their future self make better decisions in the present. They procrastinate less, they spend money more wisely, they even eat better. Why? Because the future stops feeling abstract. It becomes personal. So I started every week with a vision check-in. I asked, does what I'm doing today move me closer to the person I'm becoming, or just keep me busy being the person I've always been? But strategy isn't just about thought, it's about structure, and that's where environment comes in. At first, I blamed myself for having no discipline. Why couldn't I focus? Why did I keep falling into the same distractions? Until I learned about something called choice architecture. The idea that your environment shapes your decisions more than willpower ever will. That hit hard. So I started small, moved my phone charger out of the bedroom, set up my desk like it belonged to the future me I envisioned, unfollowed anything online that made me feel reactive or ashamed, and filled my space with visual cues of who I wanted to become. That one change alone removed so much friction from my life. Because now I wasn't trying to be disciplined every second. I was designing my world to make the right thing easier to do. And finally, the most powerful shift of all, I stopped asking what is the best decision right now, and started asking what decision opens the most good options later. That's called second-order thinking, a concept from behavioral psychology, and once you get it, you can never go back, because now I don't just look for quick wins. I look for leverage points, decisions that compound, relationships that grow, habits that stack, moves that build momentum even when I'm not looking. Strategic thinking isn't just about being smart. It's about thinking long enough to escape the loop you're stuck in. It's how you stop reacting and start engineering your life. Here's the truth no one told me. Strategic thinking isn't about locking yourself in a room with a whiteboard and building a 5-year master plan. It's not about control or perfection or being 10 steps ahead all the time. It's about building habits that shift your brain out of survival mode. It's about training your mind to zoom out before you zoom in. When I started, I didn't have a grand vision. I was just tired of spinning my wheels. So I began with a few simple practices that helped me see the bigger picture. The first habit was this. Every Sunday, I give myself 15 minutes of silence. No phone, no checklist, just a blank page and one question. What system broke this week? Not what task, not what person. What recurring friction am I facing that needs a better structure? This alone changed the way I approached my week. Instead of solving the same problem again, I asked how I could design it out of existence. The second habit was journaling like a strategist, not Dear Diary style, but more like running a post-game analysis. Where did I react today instead of respond? What emotion made the decision for me? What would my future self have done instead? Psychologists call this cognitive self-regulation. It's how you train your mind to observe itself without judgment. Because you can't redesign a system you don't understand. Third, I redesigned my physical and digital space. I removed the mental friction hiding in plain sight, the open snack drawer, the phone charger next to my bed. The endless tabs I said I'd read later but never did. Instead, I started placing visual cues for who I wanted to become. A book on my pillow, a 30-minute calendar block every morning labeled design, not react. That small change alone reminded me I had a choice, to create the day or be dragged by it. Fourth, I started doing what I call one-layer deep decisions. Before saying yes to anything, I paused and asked, what is this really connected to? Is it part of a bigger plan, or just another distraction in disguise? Strategic thinking is not about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes with intention. And finally, I created a weekly habit called Decision Review. Every Friday, I write down one good decision I made that week, not just because it worked, but because of how I made it. Did I think long-term? Did I align it with my future? Did it create more options instead of closing doors? Over time, that single habit rewired my decision-making patterns, and I began to realize I didn't need to be more disciplined. I needed to be more strategic about where my discipline went. Let me tell you something simple but true. You don't become strategic by doing more. You become strategic by doing less on purpose. Start small. Design your defaults, audit your patterns, create clarity before movement, because momentum without direction is chaos, but even a slow step in the right direction is progress with power. Looking back, I used to believe life was something that happened to me. Now I know it's something I can shape, not through control, but through clarity, not by reacting faster, but by stepping back further. Strategic thinking changed the way I solve problems, the way I set goals, the way I choose who to spend time with. It didn't make my life easier, it made it intentional. You don't need to be a genius to think strategically. You just need to start asking different questions. Where am I going? What patterns are guiding my choices? How do I design my environment so that success is the default? So today, try this. Pick one area of your life that feels stuck. Don't fix it. Step back, ask why it keeps repeating, then zoom out. Think 5 moves ahead. That's what strategic thinking is, not just solving, but designing. And if this video helped you see your life differently, leave a comment below and share one small strategic habit you want to build this week. And don't forget to like and subscribe to High Day Psych. We're building better minds. One day